Shalom and welcome to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles.
I want everyone to please get the material I sent you most recently, which is this question about the chiasm.
Right.
Because we're going to do, before we go line by line, we're going to read it all over. But I don't know if you had a chance to look at it.
I did.
All right. So if you look on the page, you'll see at the top everybody got it?
Yeah.
Okay. So you see Anchor Bible Dictionary on that in volume 1, page 208, suggests that this segment that we were about to begin, which is chapter 5, verses 117, is a palistrophe. Now, palistrophe is a fancy word for a chiasm, which is a fancy word for, the inverse parallelism. But I understand finally today.
I'm sorry, what's a chiasm, Joel?
ABBA.
Oh, yeah, okay.
The X. Think chi, the Greek based on
Okay.
Greek letter X.
Okay.
But you see, the point is because here it's an ABC X CBA, so it can't be really technically a chiasm. It's too big for key. So the palistrophe means it's from two Greek words meaning again and back. So you're going to read it and then you're going to read it again backwards. So it's ABC CBA. You see, but it's more than just an X because you got multiple elements.
Like a palindrome, kind of like a palindrome.
Palindrome, but that's a little bit different. Right, exactly. Back and forward. Yes, that's right. Yeah, it is.
Abel was I, ere I saw Alba, said Napoleon.
Say again?
Abel was I, ere I saw Elba.
I see. Okay, a whole thing. Yeah, right. Yes. Or but there's another one.
There's Otto. The name is the palindrome.
Yeah, right. No, but there's another one. All right. Anyway.
Oh, I see what the ABC. Okay, I didn't understand what you meant. Yeah. Why the ABC then CBA? Okay.
You got it. So that's right. So they use that word. Anyway, so the layout is here. So remember, this is going to go by the order as it is in the text. All right. So the A, you look on the paper, you'll see. So the A is verses 1 to 3, which is an elegy.
What's an elegy?
A lament.
Okay.
For a person who died.
Like you may know the adjective elegiac, even if you don't know the noun. Oh, no. Never mind.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
What?
Tybal, I didn't hear what you said, Tybal.
Some people use the word elegiac to talk about music or to talk about other things. So I thought maybe Barbara would know the adjective, but not the noun.
Right. This is
that would be an adjective, yeah.
There are many poems called elegies. So that's anyway, you'll see what we mean. Okay.
A eulogy is when a person dies, not an elegy.
Well, eulogy, but this is a different thing.
Elegy, right.
Yeah. This is a lament. A eulogy is actually speaking about the life of the person.
Yeah, you being good.
It's an oy vavoy thing.
Right.
You'll see. All right, so verses 1 to 3 is an elegy. Verses 4 to 6, which is B, is, as they say, seek and live. It's that concept that is there. C, which is only verse 7, is they're calling a complaint. X, which is in the middle, is called a doxology, which is a word of praise of God. Then C prime, you see, is again a complaint, balancing C. Then B prime is seek God, not evil, right? That's verses 14 and 15, and that would be the parallel to seek and live. And then 16 and 17, mourning, okay, with a U, which parallels the elegy. So that's structurally. What I have done on this page, however, is I laid it out now so that you can see the actual parallelism, starting with the A and the A prime. Right? I pulled it out of the order of the text, created a new order based upon the parallels. All right, so we're going to start with each. Well, I want to go through them, and so you can get a sense, and you tell me if there is reason to assume that this kind of paralleling exists. All right, so I want you to think a little critically, and I'll explain why I'm asking this, because there's an element missing here. Some of this that I normally look for. I'm hearing somebody talking in the background. Is somebody talking in the background?
Not me.
Okay, all right. All right, Tybal.
So we're going to be chutzpahdik enough to question both the Anchor Bible and Rabbi Joel Rembaum, who did the selection from the Anchor Bible?
This is the Anchor Bible Dictionary.
I know. Well, but still, isn't it the same people that did the Anchor Bible? The same scholars?
It's not no, not necessarily.
Oh, okay, fine.
No, I mean, the articles are short. I mean, it's a substantial article in the Anchor, the Anchor Bible Dictionary is 6 volumes. It's more like an encyclopedia, okay? And they're wonderful essays. And there's a lot of good, solid research behind this. That's why I chose it. But on the other hand, there's certainly something missing in some of these parallels, or so-called parallels, and I'm wondering if we can call it that. So you got to think critically now, all right? Okay, so here is the first, what we call the elegy, which is the A, which is the first element, and the morning, A prime, which is the last element.
Oh, okay.
Remember, we got 7 elements: A, B, C, X, C, B, A. So this is on the 2 ends, all right? You can call this a frame around all the stuff in the middle, if it indeed is. All right, so here we go. Shimu et hadavar hazeh asher anochi noseh aleichem kina beit Yisrael. Hear this word that I intone as a dirge, a kina, right? A poem of deep pain and anguish with death and destruction. The best known kina in the Bible would be
in the Bible, isn't it?
Shaul veYonatan.
That's one, Shaul veYonatan, but I'm thinking of a bigger one.
Rachel. Yeah. No, Rachel
is.
Oh, Yaakov and Rachel. No.
What about
when she died?
What about when one of Solomon's sons is killed?
Right. Well,
Absalom. Absalom.
Yeah. Absalom. That's David's son. Yes.
I thought it's like
hold on. How about Eicha?
Oh, a book. Okay.
Yeah, an entire book of the Bible. Eicha. It's basically a big kina.
Right.
It's all lament in very, very great detail. Right? It's painful. All right, so that's the big one. All right. He's going to give us a mini kina, as you'll see in a minute. All right, but that's what it is. It's a moaning over horrible death and destruction. And it's most fitting. And the next line, as you will see, if you can remember Eicha from last Tisha B'Av, this is a line that seems like it almost could be taken from the book of Eicha. Except you may want to say, Betulat Yerushalayim instead. All right, here we go. Now listen to it. This is a poem. Nafla lo tosif kum betulat Yisrael nicha alat mata ein mekima.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so nafla, fallen. Lo tosif kum, not to rise again, betulat Yisrael, is the virgin Israel. Nicha alat mata, abandoned on her land or her soil, with none, ein mikima, no one to pick her up. Okay? Now, interesting when you look at that, the whole concept of this happened, right? In other words, this is at one moment sounds something in the past, but indeed it's intended to be, as you will see, a prediction of the future. Okay, but he's beginning this whole prophecy here, dealing with a death, and that's what it appears to be. It doesn't say she's dead, but clearly she's suffering. But it says she's not going to get up, and lo tosif kum, that implies being dead. Why would she be called Betulat Yisrael? What's a Betulah?
And
young woman or a virgin?
I always thought that it's someone who isn't ritually married, regardless of sexual status. So this could be Israel who didn't keep faith with the covenant with God.
Usually it's associated with a young woman.
Young woman, yeah.
A younger woman. A virgin. In other words, that would be a woman who's not yet married. Yeah. It's not talking about a 40-year-old woman who's not married. It's usually associated with a younger person.
But is this, in this case, is it calling Israel a maiden?
Yes.
Or is it just a maiden of Israel?
And the point is, the maiden is in a very vulnerable position, right? Because she's not married, and usually she's too old. She has who is supporting her. And the fact is, what this is saying is, she's all by herself lying there, right? And she's got no support, okay? And but the fact that it says lo takum, she's not going to get up, and there's nobody. That's the point. And there's nobody to pick her up.
The finality.
Abandoned.
Yeah.
Okay, that is she, and that's the people Israel. So now Israel has become feminized. This is not Jerusalem. In Eicha, the lament is for the woman, but she's the mother who saw her kids destroyed. Okay, that's Eicha. That's Lamentations. Okay, excuse me. And now the punchline, so to speak, and this is now more of a didactic statement than it is. That line has really got the poetic thrust of a lament, of a poem. Ki ho amar Adonai Elohim, thus said Adonai Elohim, ha'ir hayotzeit elef, tashir me'ah, v'hayotzeit me'ah, tashir asara. Oh. A city that marched out initially 1,000 people now is left with 100. A city that normally would send out 100 people is now 10. So basically what it's saying is, and this is why she's alone, is because 90% of the population is gone.
Yeah.
That's what it is. In other words, the vast majority of the people are no longer there. And this is Israel.
This is implying war, right?
This is future tense, though, right? This is projecting. It's not something that happened. All right. So you have the poem, the real kina is that one line. So this is a projection of utter destruction and death for Israel. And that, the whole package is a kina, it's a lament. But the poetic aspect of it would just be line 2, I think. All right, so that's A. Now look at A prime, the last 2 verses of this section. Lachein ko amar, get this, ko amar Adonai Elohei tzvaot Adonai. All right? Or if you were probably going to read it in the original, Ko Amar Yud-Hei Vav-Hei Elohei Tzvaot Adonai. 4 distinct words referring to God. This is God. If you didn't get it the first time, God. Okay? Excuse me. B'chol rechovot mispeid, uv'chol chutzot yomru ho ho, v'karu ikar el evel, umispeid el yod'ei nehi. All right, this is a kina sounding. All right, assuredly, thus says God, the sovereign, or God of hosts. Okay, in every, 1 second, Rechovot, in all of the squares, or in every square or plaza. Rechov doesn't mean street here. It's a wide space. I checked it in the dictionary. And so it's really used for a plaza. So, and you'll see what's next. There is lamenting. In every street, and that's chutzot. You'd think chutzot would be the outside of the city. But it doesn't mean this. Among the meanings is what it says here. It could be a street or a market. So, in fact, if you wanted to make a parallelism, which it is, you could say that the term square, or the plaza, is equivalent to the market, because the market would be set up on the plaza. Okay, so it's something like that. The point is, this is still in a city. Keep that in mind. This is in a city, right? And there will be mispaid, a hesped. We often use that term for a eulogy, but it can also be a lamenting statement of pain, suffering. Okay, so that's everywhere you turn. There is mispaid. Woe is us. Oh, it's horrible, horrible loss. And then it goes on, Ubechol chutzot, and in all the streets or markets, Yomru ho ho. Now, ho ho is not Santa Claus. Ho ho is supposed to be the sound. We would say oi lanu. Okay, something like that. That's the intention of what this is. So they're crying out. The pain is so great. And then this is now interesting. And the ikar, right, the farmer, shall be called to mourn. In other words, it's almost as if the destruction has so weakened they need extra mourners. Normally, a person who does that is a woman. In the Bible, typically the women are called to sing the dirges and things. But here they're calling a man. Now it sounds like they're calling him into the city. Okay? And then also there are kol yodei nehi, and those who know how to lament.
Oh.
So in other words, they have people who are the professional lamenters, but they need support, so they have to even call somebody even from the farm. So this appears to be a city setting once again. But then the second line, it goes on and extends it now. Uv'chol kramim mispeid. There's that word again. Ki evor b'kirbecha, amar Adonai. For there shall be lamenting in every vineyard. Now we're out in the fields. When I pass through your midst, says God. Okay? All right. Do you see, is there a parallel between A and A prime?
Well, one is the 100 strong walking out, coming out.
They're not, I grant, yes, there are some significant differences.
And there's the lamenting, the dirge, and the lamenting.
Yes, different words, but same process. Okay? All right, Tybal?
I don't know that this is right, but in A1, it's a general statement of a dirge. But then in A prime 17, which doesn't necessarily match because it's further, but to me, one is theoretical, a dirge, but then it's very specific as opposed to the blessings when rain falls in a vineyard. This is lamenting in a vineyard. So it's could it be a specific example of a dirge?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't say exactly what. It just says misped, right? Lamenting, a lament.
But then at least in English, the English you gave us, it says in every vineyard.
Well, it does. Bechol kramim. Karam is a vineyard, right? So
to me, that's a parallel, that there will be dirges, and here's the specific dirge, which to me is a really bad one, because our daily liturgy talks about rain and vineyards and all those things. And I could go on 7 species, but I'm not.
Yeah, all right. So in other words, so it's almost as if the second, no, they're different. But the point is, on the one hand, the same message is being given. Right? There is lament for massive destruction, right? Different modes of expressing it are mentioned. The kina technically would be verse 2 in A. Okay? In A prime, technically, there's no structured kina. Okay? On the other hand, the point is the same, right?
Oh, yeah.
Utter destruction is going to happen, and it's going to hit. The parallel, the one parallel is they both deal with cities, right? The first one talks about the city of 100 and 1,000 and 100, right? And here you have the cities, the parts of the city, the square and the streets, right? And so you got to keep in mind when he's talking about. When Amos is talking about evil, he has in mind the city of Samaria, the capital. I mean, he's mentioned that before. So an urban setting is something that this farmer, remember himself, Amos works in the outside. He's a shepherd, and he deals with trees, right? Sycamore trees. So he is an outside. He lives in the outside. But here he's focusing is on the city, because he's speaking in numbers. He's saying this probably in Bethel, which is also, it's a town, but it's an urban area. Bethel was a significant shrine. The temple was there. So that's an important, so the point is, my feeling is, see, normally when I look at chiasms, I look for words where you have the same word popping up in the parallel parts. And what struck me here is you really don't. But on the other hand, the themes are so similar that you have to, I'm really leaning on accepting the fact that this is a kind of a strange, it is more of it's not an absolute parallel, but it is a quasi-parallel, and it's intended to frame what follows in utter destruction.
I think that sentence 1, he's making lamenting, he's making a dirge, and sentence 17, which is farther away from one than the others, is also making lamenting. But it's in the vineyard.
Of the mistake. Yes, you have that word. Yes.
And then number 3, talks about the town marching out 100 strong and returning, 1,000 strong, returning 100, or 100 strong and returning 10. And number 16, so 3 and 16 are closer to each other than 1 and 17. I don't know.
That's okay. That's fine. That's in fact, it strengthens the argument for a chiasm.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm
right. And I think the fact that it's a good point. That the use of the kina and the misped, and in a sense, the verse 16 describes what happened after verse 3.
Right, and then they have to call in more because they didn't have enough because they lost so many.
Exactly. So I think thematically, if not vocabulary, by theme and impact, there is parallelism. That's my feeling. Okay. All right. So that's A. Those are the A's. Now we move down one
to the B's.
A to the B, and then the structure of going up one from the A prime to the B prime. Okay? So this is the next one. This is going to sound familiar to anyone who took the Psalms class. That's a hint. Here, I think this section.
Where's Bert? He's the one that's the most knowledgeable.
What?
I said, where's Bert?
Herod, yeah, but of course, she'll know it. But I think others might too. Let's see. All right, so here it says, Tekoa Mar Adonai, excuse me. So this is following verse 3, right? So this is now verse 4. Excuse me. Tekoa Mar Adonai lebeit Yisrael, dirshuni bichyu. God says to Israel, seek me and you will live. All right? Then it goes on, the next verse, verse 5. Al tidrashu Beit El, v'hagilgal lo tavo, uver sheva lo ta'avoru, ki hagilgal galo yigle, uveit El yehieh la'aven. That's a poem. All right, so do not seek out Beit El, and don't come to Gilgal, and don't go to Beersheba. Common denominator, again, these are all cities where there were shrines. All right, don't go to those places. Because why? Gilgal, Galo, Yigle. Is that a word play or what? Right? Gilgal will indeed be exiled. And Beit El, Yehieh La'aven. There the word play, Aven means the same as ayin, which means nothing. He says here a delusion, right? It's going to be nothing. And that Beit El becomes nothing. You see the olives, Beit El and Aven. So this is a poem, all right? And it's the opposite. It says, seek God, don't seek the holy places. Why? When it says seek God, from Amos's perspective, what is he talking about? How do you seek God? By offering sacrifices? If you're Amos, what would you say?
I'd pray.
I believe all these shrines. I wouldn't go to any of these shrines, that's for sure.
Well, those were authorized centers of worship for people.
Oh, they were. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, later on, they will be seen as being, or more explicitly, as potentially paganized worship, but not here. But we learned before.
Wait, he was condemning behavior, so it would be better midot. Yes. That's what he wants, not the prayer, not the ritual, not the travel. He's saying, justice. Do the right thing, Derek Eretz. Do what you're supposed to do.
Justice, right? Mishpat, tzedakah. That's what he's saying. He said, I don't want your sacrifices. He said that before. We read that. So he's saying, don't go to these places. Seek me, not these places. In other words, it's almost as if he's saying, I'm not found there anymore. I'm not there. Think about it. If you are a priest, if you are a priestly crew, if you are a person who's hot and heavy on institutions of worship, and suddenly you're told, I'm not there. You want to find me? You won't be there. Okay? But if you seek, now he goes and says it again. It's the same. Remember, go back to verse 4. What did it say? Right? Dirshuni v'chiyu. And again, Dirshu et Adonai v'chiyu. Seek God and you will live. Pen yitzlach ka'esh Beit Yosef ve'achla ve'ein mechabeh Beit El. Otherwise, God will rush fire. Right? We know from these things. Upon the house of Joseph. What's the house of Joseph?
Ephraim and Manasseh.
Ephraim. The northern kingdom was called Ephraim. Right. So this is the house of Joseph. And Beit El then won't be able to put out the fire. This is really a prediction of here 2 weeks ago.
Sounds like Los Angeles.
I hate to say it.
Yeah.
It is, right? Exactly. All right. So the point is, it's almost he's saying, if you do, I'm still waiting to see if you show a change of behavior. All right. God is really being patient in a sense here. Remember, he said before, I warned you. This horrible thing happened. That catastrophe happened. And you didn't listen. One more time, I'm saying, don't go to these places and bring with you your sacrifices after you've done an injustice of great proportion, which you have done. I'm not there anymore. You got to find me. You'll find me in a place where you do righteousness. That's what he's implying. All right, AJ, and then Tybal.
Do you have the bit about you won't be able to put out the fire? Is that, I mean, I realize it's like, oh, it's so big you can't put it out, but is it also a threat to do it on Shabbat?
No, I don't think.
Okay.
It just says, ve'ein mechabeh. It says, and nobody's going to put it out. In other words, he's saying even on Shabbos, dafka, because it's a holy day. Yeah, I don't think that's what he's saying. It'd be interesting. Even Shabbos, even if I have to start the fire on Shabbos, that would be great, actually. But he doesn't say it.
This is God's fire.
But the point is, again, seek me and live. Otherwise, if you don't seek me, what are you going to do? What we read already.
Cast down.
You're going to die.
Yeah, it cast down like the maiden with no one to help you.
Wait, say that again. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
You're going to be cast down just like the maiden in the...
Maiden. Yes, exactly.
And no one will help you.
And nobody's going to be there, right? You know, that's an ongoing theme here. There aren't people at the right place at the right time because they're gone. That's what's going to happen. Okay, so so those are verses 4, 5, and 6. Now B prime, as you see, are verses toward the second section up from the bottom, verses 14 and 15. So here I think you will see again, here, this for me is absolute chiasm, parallelism. Dirshu tov ve'al ra, l'ma'an tichyu. Right? He said before, Dirshu Adonai v'chyu. Now he's saying Dirshu tov ve'lo ra, ve'al ra, l'ma'an tichyu. Seek good and not evil, so that you will live. So here you really have an echoing off of verse 6, right? I think that's obvious.
Oh, yeah.
V'hichein, and it will be thus, so it may be. V'hichein Adonai Elohei Tzvaot itchem kasher amartem. Then God will be with you as you have said, as you have thought, as you have assumed, right? Not in those places. Do justice, seek goodness, not evil, so that you can live, and that's where you'll find God. So it all goes together. This is really good parallelism between this and verses 4, 5, and 6. And then he continues, right? And he basically says the same thing. Sin ura, verse 15. Ve'ehevu tov, hate evil and love good. V'hatzigu v'sha'ar mishpat, and put at the gate of the city, not in the temple, at the gate of the city, demonstrate mishpat, justice. Ulai yechanan Adonai. Maybe Elohei Tzvaot she'erit Yosef. Maybe then God will be compassionate, gracious to the remnant of Joseph. To she'erit Yosef, to who's left over. Okay? So this to me, absolute, this qualifies definitely as a chiastic structure. I don't think there's any question. Because you got language, theme, this is good. This is good. And it sort of reinforces what we said before about the A part, the A and A prime, being a frame where the themes are the same, but different examples are made, although there is some parallelism there in certain of the sub-themes that are developed in A and A prime. All right? Now, just as an aside, I put this in. So those of you who were in the Psalms class will remember Psalm 34, which you can also find in your Sidur Lev Shalem in Psuke V'Zimra for Shabbat morning. Okay, verse 34. And there you say, so he says, and here I've noted the Psalms, 34:5, Darashti et Adonai, ve'anani mikol megurotai itzilani. I turned to God and he answered me, and he saved me from all my terrors. Then ta'amu uru ki tov Adonai, asher hageber, ashrei hageber yechesebo. Okay, so then he's saying, taste and see how good God the Lord is. Happy is the person, the man, takes refuge in him. Then finally, this is the famous one everybody knows, right? 34:13-15. Mi ha'ish echafetz chayim, ohev yamim lirot tov. Who is the person who is eager for life, who desires years or days of good fortune, who seeks them out? Netzor lashon chameira, usfatecha midaber mirma. Guard your tongue from speaking evil, and your lips from deceitful speech. Sur meirav aseh tov. Go away from evil and do good. Bakeh shalom rotehu. And seek and pursue it. So there you can see this. This is very similar to the wording in that psalm, which is not said in a threatening way, really, but it's telling you the positive, right? What you can do, all right? And that was a very powerful psalm, as we all recall. Okay, so the point I want to make here is that it's not surprising that the Psalms are filled with these ideas. Amos, in many ways, picks up on elements of themes that you will find in the Psalms, but particularly, again, we can go back to this notion of the wisdom tradition, these universal concepts that were flowing back and forth throughout the Middle East in antiquity, and these kinds of words of seeking God in this way. And remember, this poem, the Psalm begins where he says, use your mind, right? Think about it. Call out to God, reach out to God, okay? And it's not a matter of so much ritual. So this notion of less, shall we say, less ritualized turning to God and more ethical turning to God, right? That's what this all has. But the language here, this doresh, tov, the contrast of tov and ra, right? What it says, do tov, not ra. They're both saying the same thing. So to me, this is an echo. Whether Amos actually knew this psalm or not, it's hard to know. But again, he was not a dumb guy. And in fact, if you look through what he's writing, he draws on a number of seemingly different sources. So he seems to be quite a learned person. So he may have seen these or heard them, or was just in the culture that he sought because of his because of his spiritual and ethical drives. So to me, this was really, I love this when you see this kind of parallel from one genre to another, from prophets to psalms. But you can understand why that was. Okay, all right. So I think once again we can say that this is a good, solid. This is real chiasm land here.
Do we know who wrote things first, Amos versus the Psalms?
I mean, it's difficult. I mean, I haven't made seen anything that's made a chronological analysis of the language of the Psalms. I mean, they run such a. We can tell the old stuff, right? Because you have the use of word endings and other terms that are very ancient. So those would be the older Psalms. And then some in the Hallel. I don't want to spend time finding. Those are Psalms 113 to 118. So there you'll find some very ancient words. The structures are early grammatical forms that pass out of use in later ones.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm not enough of a technical linguist to be able to just look at I can't tell you when this was written. I mean, I think most historians, most biblical critics or students will tell us that, yes, we know when Amos lived, middle of the 8th century, and his Hebrew reflects that. And the fact is, if you've noticed, there's not any of these weird endings in these when Amos is teaching. It's solid, beautiful, solid Hebrew. So, but the Psalms itself, I don't know. I'm not going to play. I wish I could, but I can't. Okay. Now, excuse me. Now we're moving toward the center, but we're not quite there yet. So this is now going to be verse 7, and then verses 10 to 13. Now here, clearly, there's a major difference just structurally. Verse 7, you have one verse, right? Whereas 10, 11, 12, 13, the largest in terms of verses segment of this whole thing is C prime. So let's see if we can see is there what the possibility of some form of parallelism between what he calls the complaint in 7 versus the complaint in 10 to 13. And I already showed one of my cards. It says you can understand that perhaps 10 to 13 may actually be an amplification of number 7. All right, let's think that may be the key. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Playing out, it's fleshing out what verse 7 is telling us. Let's see. So this is again, what have they been doing? So God said, hate evil and do good. However, hahofchin lalana mishpat utstaka la'aretz hanichu. You turn justice into wormwood. Yuck. Okay? And mishpat, right? And hurl righteousness to the ground. The and seek God, by the way, are not my words. That's what we found in the translation. Whatchamacallit? I think I'm right. I don't think I put them in. If I did, I forgot. But I wouldn't do that. All right. So you take wormwood justice, which is a precious, sweet, wonderful thing, and convert it into wormwood, which apparently is some kind of horrible, yucky smelling plant. Okay? And poisonous. That's what you do. Right? And you just throw righteousness on the ground. Okay? Okay, that's a poem. 3. Okay, in fact, it is it's a chiasm. Verb at the beginning, verb at the end. The object of the verb, wormwood. No, sorry, it's stuck us out of place. No, wait a minute. No, it's not. Right, that's part of the, right. And you have mishpat and stuck on the middle. That is a chiasm, ABCCBA. It's a chiasm. Okay, so that's what they do. They just corrupt justice. That's what this is saying. All right, now let's go look on. Sanu v'sha'ar mochiach v'dover tamim yit'avu. Okay, yit'avu. So they hate a mochiach at the gate. All right, why the gate? What's the gate? What's the role of the gate?
They arbitrate. It's like a court where they arbitrate what's right and what's wrong.
That's right.
Courtroom kind of.
It took place at the gates of the city.
The gate of
The court they convene at the gate. That's common.
Is that like taking off from the line 15 and establish justice in the gate?
Well, but that's part of the same component. Yes. Yeah, it's the same thing. Right. Exactly. Yes. All right, but so what do these people do? They hate the arbiter. Okay, it could be an arbiter or somebody who reprimands. Hocheach tochiach et amitecha. Admonish your friend. All right? That's in the Torah. Same verb. Yud chaf chet. All right? But the point is, either case, this is a person. The arbiter stands for the carrying out of justice. Well, what's their reaction at the gate? Instead of respect, they hate the guy. And beyond that, davar the dover tamim yitavu. A person whose plea, whose claim, his speech, what he's talking about is just, they detest, they despise. So this again, it is. Let me see. Sinu v'sha'ar mochiach. The verb at the beginning and the verb at the end, and dover tamim. Well, it's close. All right. It's a poem. It's definitely a poem. All right, next, moving on. Now here you got some very strange words. Lachein ya'an boshaschem al dal umasat bar tikchu mimenu bate gazit benitem. Therefore, or there, because, assuredly, below teshvu bam karme chemed natatem below tishtu et yenam. All right, because you impose a tax. So the verb bo shaschem is bashas would be the verb, which is a very strange verb. Okay, so apparently it means to levy a tax al dal on a poor person. That's what you do, and at the same time masat barti chuimedu, and you exact from him a levy of grain. Okay, so that that could be either. It looks like, in addition to putting a tax on him, they take grain from him, or it could be that was the tax. But the point is, they're taxing poor who don't have the means. That's unjust. That's what he's saying. And then what do you do? What do you do? You take that money. What do? You build homes that are of hewn stone, but you're not going to live in them. You've planted delightful vineyards, but you're not going to drink the wine. Ki yadati rabim pishechem ve'atzumim chatotechem. So rei tzadik lokhe kofer. All right, for I have noted how many are your crimes, and how countless your sins, you enemies of the righteous. Tzorer tzaddik. Tzorer means an enemy, somebody who causes pain and suffering to someone. So you do that to the righteous person. And what are you? You are lokhe kofer. You take bribes. The evyonim basha'ar hitu. And you subvert in the gate the cause of the needy. Okay, you pervert it says hitu means to pervert, to push off the track. So at the gates, there's that gate again, right? You take the legitimate cases of the poor and you turn them against them. In the sha'ar, at the gate of the city, where the judges sit, where the court sits, where justice is supposed to take. All right, so again, I want to suggest here, as was the case with the A and A prime, that here the C and the C prime, clearly let's hold on one second. There's one more verse. Lachein hamaskil ba'et hahi yidom ki et ra'ahi. Assuredly, at such a time, the prudent keeps silent, for it's an evil time. It means, it seems to be, that given the perversion over there, nobody talks, right? It's so bad, they're afraid to open their mouth. So who has to do the yelling and screaming? Amos. Nobody complains about this. That's the point. It's going on. Nobody stops it. All right. So my suggestion is, and I stand by it, that there is parallelism here in the sense that the whole notion, the verse 7, lays out a concept of perverting justice, right, and rejecting it. And verses 10 through 13 gives an example, a real life example of how that happens and what is done. And so this is the moving to the center of it. That this is the cause of everything. That's the point. This is right by the right near the middle. All right. So you have the results flowing out of activity that get more precise, if you will, the closer you get to the center of this segment. And then finally, in the middle, you have a doxology. A doxology is a statement of praise of God, strictly focused on God's power, strictly focused on what it can do. And it's a common motif in the Bible. It's a common motif. All right, so here we go. So these two verses are not, it's called the X, because they are not there's no parallel to these two verses. It's a standalone statement about God. It relates to, as you will see, the second verse relates to what he's talking about. But ultimately, this is simply a statement, a powerful statement of God, and very, very interesting. So, Osechima uchsil, hofech la boker tzalmavet, b'yom laila echeshich, hakorei l'mei hayam vayishbechem al pnei haaretz, Adonai Shemo. So God is Osechima uchsil. You made Pleiades and the Orion. What is that?
The stars in the sky.
Right. Exactly. Yes, that's right. Okay. So God created these stars, and remember, these are also what do you call them? Constellations.
That's the word.
Right? Constellations, and the people back then believed, there was power in them. It's not astrology. This was important to astrology. I'm not saying Amos, I don't know if he believed in astrology or not, but clearly the fact that you have these structures among the stars that people could see is an indication of how powerful God is. He doesn't just make stars, but he sets them up in such a way that they can represent things. This is power.
Oh.
And at the same time, Hofech laboker tzalmavet b'yom laila hecheshich, right? He takes the morning and creates it into darkness, and he takes daytime and makes it into darkness. In other words, so he can turn on and off light, right? He basically means he set up the system, and it's totally repetitive, right? It's parallelism to the nth degree. But God runs all of these heavenly processes, but on top of that, Hakorei lemei hayam vayishbechem al pnei haaretz. He calls upon the water and splashes it on the land. Okay, whether they're talking about the beach at Tel Aviv,
I doubt
or
it.
they're talking about a flood, right? The point is, God controls land and sea. We're going back to Genesis chapter 1, right? This is going back to the God of Genesis chapter 1. Great creator, master of all the powers in the universe, right? Adonai Shemo, Yud He Vav, he is his name. This is God. What else can he do? Hamablig shod al az, v'shod al mitzar yavo, who hurls destruction upon strongholds so that ruin comes upon fortresses. Okay? He destroys fortresses, right? Boom. Is that a surprise? No. Look what he can do. So here what he's doing is he's massaging this concept of a praise of God into an analogous thing in the real life of these people. Remember, he talks a lot about fortresses and buildings, right? Again, he's thinking the urban people of Samaria, the rich who will have these beautiful homes, like he mentioned up above, cut stone homes, right? So he's into real estate. You guys know about that, Lee Tops, right? Real estate.
Yeah, except it's a city that's destroying us, not God. Never mind. No pot.
Okay. So anyhow, that's what he's saying. So he's reifying this. He's putting it in terms that these people understand. This is this God you're dealing with here.
He's saying, look, if he can set the stars into patterns and turn darkness into light, how simple is it for him to destroy a fortress?
Of course, it's a big deal. It's a piece of paper. Yes, exactly. That's exactly the point. And here, no, okay. Yeah, but again, Hamavlig showed al-Az v'shod al-mivtzar yavo. Again, that's a little poem. You can just have a repetition, the structure. All right. So the interesting thing here is, look at the note. All right. Ksil and Hima and Ksil. You can find Ksil in Isaiah 13:10. In Job, in 9:9, you will find both words. And in Job, you will find in chapter 38, Hima. These and Amos 5:8, where you have both, are the only places in the Bible where these words with their astronomical meaning are found. Okay? So here you can see Amos is using highfalutin language. And the fact that it pops up in Job, right? In Job, which is a very, very challenging, dense complaint against God, the people who try to make him feel that it's all his fault and so forth. This is the language he's using. This is very sophisticated language. Isaiah, and that's Isaiah, first Isaiah, where the language is very, very sophisticated. So he's here with some high, this language puts him at a very high level, I would. And here it's the meaning this is interesting though. Ksil, meaning a fool, a completely different interpretation and different use. It's found dozens of times in Mishlei, in Proverbs. Okay. So again, the one thing we know in common that Job and Amos and Mishlei have is its wisdom truths. And Amos and Isaiah has it as well. By the way, Isaiah is a young contemporary of Amos. A little bit later, okay? Amos is around 750. Isaiah is around 720. And it's interesting.
Are you talking BCE?
Yeah, of course. Oh, there weren't no prophecies no prophets in the Middle Ages.
Okay.
No plagues.
No prophets in the Middle Ages.
What's the dot above the Samach in Ksil?
What?
What's the dot above Ksil, above the Samach? It's not a singing note that I know.
What, the dot?
Yeah.
That's it. That takes you to the footnote, to the bottom of the page.
The dot above Ksil.
Oh, that's a footnote?
The dot above Ksil.
Above the Samach.
Could be a trope.
It's not a trop.
No, it might be. You know what? Hold on.
There is no dots for a trop.
Yeah, of course there is.
1 second. It could be.
There is.
Well, what trop is it?
Probably instead of a diamond.
It's Monach Revi'i anyway.
A Revi'i.
No, Revi'i is not a single dot.
No, but I'm saying I think it's that's how it was put in the printing. They may not have. You don't find. Let me see if I can find some other ones. Hold on. No, there is a dot. There's a diamond. It is a diamond.
A diamond?
Wait a minute.
Yeah, it is a diamond.
Yeah, it's a diamond. It is.
Okay.
It is. It's a Revi'i.
Diamond.
Right. Chima. It's Jose Chima Uchsil. That's how you would read it. Okay. Anyway, so wisdom is again in evidence in the book of Amos. So again, I think so. This is in the middle. This is right in the middle. So you see, you end up in the middle with a powerful statement about who God is.
Are you saying that this is the way he probably should have written it, or is the way
No. The way he wrote it was intentional. The chiasm goes from A to B to C. Middle statement, which is the one on which everything else leans, and then you go backwards out, CBA.
Yeah, okay.
But you'll find that order at the beginning on page 1 at the top.
But
right, when I refer to the dictionary, you see at the top.
Yeah, okay.
You got it? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to make anyway, but you understand though why that doxology appears in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
That's the unrepeated focal point. In other words, everything in this type of a chiasm, what's in the middle is something upon which the whole structure depends. All right, it's something very, very important. It's standout. It's a standalone of importance.
Rabbi, I noticed something. Rabbi, I noticed something else going back to A and A prime. He says when he described Hashem, he said the first time he says Anochi, the second time he says Hashem Elohim, and the third time he says Hashem Elohim, God Tzvaot Adonai. So they increase the description of Hashem.
Very interesting.
What? Isn't it true?
Yeah, it's interesting. Although the Anochi, the Anochi in verse 1, that Anochi refers to Amos. Anochi is bringing the key now.
Oh, okay. So I was wrong, I guess. But okay.
Right.
But still,
no, it's nice because I know where you're coming from. Anochi Adonai Elohecha Asher Elohecha Me'eretz Mitzrayim.
Exactly. That's what I thought first. Yeah.
Right. But no, in this case, it refers to the poet, a prophet. Poet. He's a poet too.
Yeah.
Right.
Call him a prophet, call him a poet. You can't go wrong. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think this. I'm going to argue that indeed we have a chiasm, and that they're not always word associations; they're thematic associations. Or we have one where a brief statement is made, and the other one, the parallel would be where it's all played out, and where the theme of the corruption of justice is really expressed between the two of them. So it's a well-crafted segment by a literary giant. I mean, the man knows how to do these things. And again, people try to argue, well, it couldn't have been him. It couldn't have been he. Blah blah blah. The burden of proof is on them.
Right.
And in this, when you see things like this, you have to assume that these people who were prophets of renown. Remember, the Bible itself tells us that there are many prophets about whom we know nothing. Groups of prophets that are referred to. Some of them are nice guys. Some of them are bad guys. We have no idea what they said. Now, whether they put their stuff in writing, we don't know. Is it possible some did? And then the authorities later on who disagreed with their perspective threw them out? That's possible. Don't you think that there must have been, we know that there were court prophets who operated in courts. Right? There are examples of that. I mean, you have a good one. What's his name? David's prophet, Nathan.
Nathan. And was he Nathan of Gaza? Or is that a different Nathan?
Say again?
Was he Nathan of Gaza? Or was that a different Nathan?
Nathan of Gaza.
I'm not sure. I don't recall.
I don't know. There's a different resonance in the past, obviously.
No. Gaza was Philistine. No, but Nathan, is he from Gaza? I never looked.
Heard of it.
Doesn't matter. The point is not.
Never mind. He wasn't. It was a much later philosopher.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I looked it up fast.
All right.
You always look up fast. You're so good.
All right. No, but the point is, you had court prophets. I mean, in a certain respect, first Isaiah was a court prophet for King Chizkiyahu. He spoke in his court. He talked with him. And then, by the way, they were on the same page, and then Yahoo, around the same time, he lived the same time as Ezekiel, as Isaiah, first Isaiah. And so they both were, intent on ridding the country of idolatry. And Chizkiyahu was the first one, preceding Josiah, in closing down these local shrines. But unfortunately, he couldn't finish the job because the Assyrians attacked not just the northern kingdom, they started to hit in Judah. And they tried to besiege Jerusalem. According to the Bible, there was a plague that hit them, so they moved away. More than likely, the real reason, because they had bigger fish to fry in the northern border, and they had to get up there. Anyway, but the point is, so you had court prophets who really served not necessarily as admonishing the kings, but who furthered their perspective by associating their teachings, their rulings with the will of God. Okay, so that's why you have the prophets. Jeremiah refers to them, and they say shalom, shalom. You know the line, shalom, shalom, v'ein shalom. Right? So Jeremiah says that. The prophets, the false prophets, say there will be peace, there will be peace, and Jeremiah says no, there will be no peace, because you have defied God completely in your idolatrous practices and in the way you run your lives. He refers to both, and he says no, these guys, there's no peace. All hell's going to break. So anyhow, yeah. So yes, I'm going to argue this is a chiasm, and it's a very powerful one. It really sets out in a very wonderful way what Amos is all about. Next time is our last session. We're going to finish the chapter and go back to a few of the lines that we've already discussed and pick up on a few loose ends that we didn't get to. We will meet next week. We're not done yet, I know. I see your hand, Tybal, just a second. We'll meet next week. We probably won't meet until sometime after Pesach, because I have a major task that lies before me. I think I told you. I have to get rid of books.
You're writing a book?
No, I have to get rid of books.
Get rid of books.
Yeah, do pre-Pesach cleaning.
Super. It wasn't
Super
just
cleaning.
It's not just because of Pesach. We don't have any room anymore. All of our shelves are vertical and horizontal.
Oh my God.
And the truth is, whether they are Jewish books, whether they are, fiction, whether they are history, biographies, whatever, it's those things. If you haven't looked at it in 10 years,
yeah. I think that's an excellent.
I've been throwing out medical texts because I don't need them. I mean, they're useless to me, and they're too old to be useless to anybody else.
Exactly, and
it's terrible the money that I spent on these things into the blue can.
Well, but Barb, you needed them at the time.
Yeah, maybe not.
No.
Yeah, I mean that's okay. You need them at the time. Classic textbooks and so.
I'm not complaining from that standpoint. I just feel bad throwing them out.
I got over that because I moved already twice, So
throwing out makes me feel so good. I love it. I'll come over and throw all your books out.
Well,
if you want to or not.
Gabi, how come you're not at book club tonight?
Yeah.
There are places.
Because she threw out the book before she could read it.
What? Say that again. What, Tybal?
She threw out the book before she could read it.
Well, sometimes if you
don't she couldn't go to book club because she told us to throw things out. She threw out the book and then realized she hadn't read it.
Oh, okay.
Well,
she's making fun.
Also, you can't go on 2 weddings at once,
All right, I think we're going to stop.
Oh,
okay.
May I say one thing?
I'll see you tomorrow.
Tybal, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Right, because just for people who move in certain circles, there's now a word from Amos that conjures up all sorts of things, which is the word dershuni. There's been a project for a very long time of Israeli women from all sorts of backgrounds writing modern midrash.
Really?
And in 2022, Brandeis University Press published the first translation, and it was called, drumroll, Dershuni.
Wow.
Very nice.
Very good.
I'll send you the link to the book.
Yeah, please.
I mean, from the publisher. I don't mean the actual book. It's really, there are some extraordinary midrash in there.
That's worth it. I'm not going to throw out I have a set of midrash here. That is the best set of midrash I've ever seen because it's all in Hebrew. And the guy who wrote it is really knowledgeable. And he gives you insights into what the midrash is really trying to say.
Oh, nice.
Yes, because it's something very obtuse,
That's worth keeping.
So they're keeping that. I'm keeping the Steinsaltz. I already gave away my old Talmud to a friend. That's years ago, and I'm going to keep the Shulchan Aruch because it looks nice. They're beautiful books. I can't get rid of those. And sometimes,
I understand there are people. They have a beautiful home, very large, and they have all these bookshelves, but they never read.
Right.
So they buy these books by the yard,
by color,
try to impress people.
I'll have 2 yards of the blue, 3 yards.
Sell your books to them.
That's an old one. All right.
I do think, Rabbi, the rule should be 50 years, not 10 years.
Okay, well, whatever.
Then you'll never throw anything out.
Oh,
no, you pick that up. Age, you might. At my age, yes.
Yeah, you pick that up. Yeah, for me, it's 70. And I'm not even 70 years old yet. Okay.
Oh, a baby.
Well, close, 68. All right.
All right, folks. So see you next week. And then I will announce in ample time, I'll have the synagogue announce when we will meet. But next week, definitely. And if you like a whiskey, you want to bring a little glass to share with everybody at the end, you may do so.
You have been listening to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. If you enjoy these podcasts, we invite you to write a review on the Apple Podcast site or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information about Temple Beth Am Los Angeles, go to tbala.org.